Okay, so I saw Alita Battle Angel yesterday, and I had to say, while enjoying the movie, I was so incredibly disappointed by the ending. And let me just preface this, as the title is probably going to be something that makes me seem very negative towards the movie. I genuinely liked the movie. I thought I had a lot of passion put into it in the sense of how it looked. This is all coming from a viewer's perspective, not a critic. However, the ending was so mediocre in my opinion, as they had all this build up, but then they just didn't end the movie. They didn't even leave it on a cliffhanger. We all kind of figured what was going to happen. We just didn't actually get anything. And I feel that 45 to an hour could have made the movie actually feel finished. I get that it was already a long movie, and there might be theater restrictions to this. However, the movie itself was already pretty long, so a few 45 minutes on top of it would have made the people actually creating the movie be able to finish it. It ended on the part where Yujiro falls off, and then Alita decides, oh, I'm gonna go and become the champion so I can get up and kill Nova. And we end off where she's looking up towards the city above, pointing the sword at where she presumes Nova is, as she's about to play her final game. I just feel there was so much missed potential with what could happen after this. Firstly, we should have just gotten the game right there. Nova should have died at the end of Alita. Because if we look at the next movie, there's not much they can do. While in that 45 minutes, they could have started off with maybe a 15-minute game, that final game, maybe introduce us to some actual players of Motorball, like the golden guy we saw in the beginning, or the red guy when Dr. Ito's old ex-wife was talking to Victor, that red robot. We could actually see some professionals, not just the bounty hunters and the criminals, which we saw earlier. We didn't actually get to see too much of a proper game. I know we saw a little bit of it when Alita was getting used to Motorball, but we didn't see her interact. We could get like 15 minutes of a game. She interacts with them. It's just battling, not necessarily killing, but just trying to get that. And she gets the championships, and she's about to be sent up. Then the second part, another 15 minutes, could be when she's going on her way up, and then Nova tries to somehow sabotage that, but she gets through it. I don't know how this could be, because they didn't show us how one would even be sent up there besides body parts. They showed us that they turn into body parts and then they get sent up, but we never actually see the method. I don't know if it's through the portal. Really? Sen takia ovi on kiinni, mä oon täällä vessassa, puhun itselleni. Ei se... Joo, mä puhun jollekin kun mä oon paskalla. No mun pitää muistaa mihin mä jäin. Pyö. Shit. Alright, let's see who I'm talking about. Yeah, we see them send up body parts, so we don't actually know how people get sent up. But let's assume she actually does get sent up by winning the championship. She starts to go up. She maybe has some kind of talk with the top player, the golden guy. She gets sent up, foils Nova, goes up top. Now this is the part where person I was talking with said, no, there has to be another movie so that they can explore this part, which is the city up above Iron City, which I don't think is necessarily true, as that location was just supposed to be like an end goal, you know, kind of supposed to symbolize different things for the different characters, like new success, back to where they used to come from for Ito's ex-wife. The place itself only held significance in the fact that it wasn't run down like Iron City. So I don't know if the place really needs that much of an introduction, since Iron City, is apparently the underbelly of that place, but now we know that the top side is actually worse. So once you get there, even though, just give like some shot, oh, it's really nice, and then she immediately gets, like, I don't know, arrested by Nova's forces or something, or she's already hunted the second she gets there. I don't know. She runs through the city, shows us a good view of what it is, shows the people that live there, show they're all snobby, whatever. Don't know what's going on in the Iron City, yada yada. Let them be ignorant, have all those things happen. She's running down the streets, whatever. Kills a bunch of robots, gets over to Nova. And then this is where they could have almost a finale, because they don't need to develop all of this, because they've already developed the characters beforehand that they're going to go with. They don't need to meet too many new characters. Maybe she can have some more revelation about the past, meet more about Nova, and then maybe if they do want to dwell more into the past bit, which wasn't too significant to begin with in the first one, sure, it was like, what am I? You're a berserker. She gets her body, she learns that she was part of the unit. They didn't really dwell too much into that. She's not even too worried about that. She's like, oh, I'm trying to remember. She remembers a bit. Oh, I want to go fight more. Then uses the excuse of I want to remember to go fight more, as she's telling Ito. But there's no there wasn't really too much emphasis on that, in my opinion. It was more on the relationship she had and the fighting and her goals to the people she knew now. So when you get there, maybe maybe it can even stretch to an hour instead of 45 minutes if they really want to delve into that past plot. Maybe have some scene where she remembers back to going up to the city above, and as she's being attacked by Nova there, whatever. But once she gets to Nova's office, and there could be a few situations that go down. Maybe Nova had some guy go find Yujo, is it Yujo? I don't remember at this point, but the male love interest's body, and then put Ito's ex-wife's eyes and brain inside of his exoskeleton, which has been upgraded by Nova. I don't know. Like, that could be the final fight. Then Nova could, like, take control of that robot after like it rebels, or Ito's ex-wife somehow gains control. I don't know. I don't know how this would go. I'm not a director. I'm just pointing that this movie should have ended with Nova dying, and then go into a maybe time skip of how the Iron City, the people of Iron City and the people of the City in the Skies kind of interact. They now have transport between the two places. Neither of them are run down. All that good stuff. Have a happy ending. I don't care. Because right now,
I'm 47% for kicking your ass.
It builds up, but it doesn't even have a cliffhanger. It builds up with new characters you already know, and it ends. If there is a new movie, they do not have, in my opinion, enough substance to be able to produce a 2-hour-long movie. It has to be minimum 2 hours at this point. The first movie was so long. Going into the next one with it being shorter, I think is just wouldn't be acceptable. And when he gets up there, whatever. I don't think you can have 2 hours based on that. However, I'm sure they can bring in new things because it is based off an anime/manga, meaning that they already have a storyline that they can follow. I get that. But for people who haven't really gotten into it, this just seemed very disappointing to end it like this. And looking at what we already know, without introducing something new, I don't think there's enough substance. Also, you'd have to start getting to know more characters than she already does. She has already made these connections that when she goes up there, if they start doing a new arc, like, oh, I have to get used to this new city, somehow keep some contact with the people on the ground, it makes all the connections that she made in the Iron City irrelevant. She gets up there, there's no point in having them anymore. And if that is the case, the fact that those connections never come to fruition is just disappointing. She could have gone up, left that upper city just as a minimal part, just have it be that symbolic goal for some of the characters, or something that they want to get away from or return to or whatever, and just have her kind of slide through that. But within those 15 minutes, maybe that extra 15 minutes that could be spread apart to discover about her past, I feel the movie could have had an actual ending that would have made the ending much more satisfying than to leave it where it was. Because like I said, at the moment, it doesn't have a proper ending. It rises in action, and then the male love interest dies. Okay. I honestly, I laughed at the body because it just seemed ridiculous. But he fell, she wanted vengeance, she's gonna go up to Nova, right? You realize, this movie's been going on for a long time. Are they really gonna make it that long to satisfy the audience? And then it ends with her pointing at the sky. They didn't give us a game. The movie practically ended on the death of the love interest. Because it didn't give us the game, it didn't even go into the game halfway and then stop. Like The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think, where he was about to fight Rhino. Sure, that never came to fruition, but the next movie could have started from there. Now, if it was to start, it would start with a point hanging up in the sky, and into the game they go. But now they don't have that back stuff, and thus they've seen the older movie. And then they'd have to fill a new 2 hours of connections and plot and characters, while I feel that would be hard to do without completely avoiding what happened in the past. But if they manage to pull that off, that's fine. Like I said, I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it as a viewer. However, the end, I feel they should have just made it go longer. There's already Braveheart, which is like 3 hours. I don't remember exactly how long this movie is. I'll check after recording and then put it up on the screen so you can see how long the movie actually is. But I feel regardless, it didn't feel boring. It felt well paced. They could have fit in that 45 minutes to an hour, in my opinion, for that last bit. I don't know if it's allowed in theaters, but it would have been a great artistic choice to honor where it came from. And by that, I'm actually going to take that back, because if the story goes somehow differently in the anime, it would have been great. But it seemed a little greedy to cut it off instead of giving us that ending of killing Nova. Because it started off with not really seeing Nova, just his blue eyes. Then it went on to us seeing us in the flashbacks and in the actual, like, lab, so we finally see Nova, then we confront Nova, but we never end the story of Nova. That's supposed to go on to the next part, but how do we know him more? Does he contact us more throughout the next movie? And if so, how does that matter? We've already confronted him through Victor. The next step should have been in person, but now we'd have to have a whole movie of just through different robots, just through different people, which I don't think would work as well if she just went up in this one movie, which would have been long. I admit, it would have been a long movie, but it would have been better, in my opinion. And now, there's one thing, I'm gonna end that there. Feel free to discuss. Do you think that the past should have been dwelt on more? Will the next movie focus more on the past to fill up some of that time needed? Would it have been too long of a movie if it was a whole hour long? Would you have watched that extra hour? Would you prefer it to end right there like it did and then continue on to the next movie? Are you excited about the next movie, or would you have wanted to finish and then be a great one-off movie, kind of like, in my opinion, Avatar? I thought that was a fun movie. And the people who made Alita also made Avatar, so I'm surprised that they didn't end in one movie. But have it be a single movie or have it be a two-part movie, which I'm gonna predict that the sequel, the second movie, is gonna be mediocre compared to this one. Though this wasn't great, it had its flaws, but it was still fun, and I feel it should have ended. But now, these are just two notable things about the movie. One, I love the dog guy. Absolutely love him. I love his little dog. I love the face he puts on when the real life doggo gets murdered. And second, they said the city in the sky is held up through engineering. Well, what kind of engineering did they fucking have to make it so that electricity did not want to conduct onto the metal in the water? Bullshit. I'm gonna slap the doubt button on my fucking shoulder. No, she should have died when she jumped in that water. That shit should have short-circuited right away. There's a whole gaping hole in her chest underneath those clothes. She didn't have the new armor, which I'm assuming is waterproof. I don't know, maybe seal it off. But she had an open-ass gaping hole in her chest, like on the upper half of the chest where even her heart was. No, she died right there. That movie ended in reality right there. They should have found another way to do it. Maybe have two of the people, like the three friends, go in there and try to get it out, being a heavy suit. They somehow leave it at the bottom, then they bring a crane. I don't fucking know. It would have been more realistic than her jumping in there, somehow also jumping out of the water without sinking right away again. But we've seen how she jumps in the real world. I'm guessing she's light somehow. Somehow engineering also made shit be light as hell. But then my final point, that heart. Sure she had been caring, and she really liked the guy, the male romance interest, for some reason. I personally did not like him too much, but sure, she likes him. But why would you give a heart that can power Iron City for decades just so a dude can go up? Why would you sell that shit? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You've known him. Sure, it didn't really have a good concept of time. I think the movie suffered in that regard and didn't really show how much time had passed. So we don't know how good of a relationship these people have gotten. Sure, she was perched at his window when he was shirtless, so I'd assume there'd been quite a while of time in between, but not enough for her to just be like, yeah, here, have this superpower heart. Sure, it might go with their character. I personally think it seemed kind of odd. While yes, they did like each other, she was the first one, it goes kind of with her character, it's still ridiculous to give that heart and then find a cheap replacement. No, you died. You would die right there, and then sure, they could bring you back because you're cyborg, but that's still a fucking heart that can power up Iron City for a long ass time. No, you don't just give that to some random dude and try to sell that for millions. So you can both go up to the city, which Ito, who I'd assume within this time span, has been talking shit about the city up there and how no one goes back there. It just doesn't really make sense to the viewer why she would give away that massive of a heart. But yeah, give the movie 45 to an hour more time. Sure, it might be a little long. I'd still think it's better. And I enjoyed the movie. It had its flaws. I'm not a critic, I'm a viewer. Give it 45 to an hour more runtime.